Hello, I'm Marta Gonzales Cortez, CEO of the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan, and it is my honor and privilege today to welcome our distinguished first speaker for the GRCC Diversity Lecture Series of 2013, Mr. Jose Antonio Vargas, who is a very renowned Pulitzer Prize-winning author and documentarian, and will be speaking later today on a charla titled Not Legal, Not Leaving. Mr. Vargas, welcome to Grand Rapids, Michigan during Art Prize Week.
Yeah.
It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I have a couple of questions that are burning questions for me that are probably less interesting to you, or questions that you've probably gotten a million times in other interviews. The first is, how did you get the courage to come out of the shadows? What was that moment that prompted you to say, I'm done being afraid, I'm done living in anonymity and in the shadows with this reality? Can you talk to me about that moment?
Why is such a hard question?
As a starter? I'm sorry.
Well, what's fascinating to me is whenever someone tell me, this is courageous, I keep thinking how much of a coward I was for so long. I don't think this is courageous. I think in a way I feel like I just couldn't keep going. I can talk about little moments about, getting pulled over in Highway 174 in Dallas, covering a caucus in 2008 for the Washington Post, and getting stopped by a sheriff and peeing my pants, because my driver's license I wasn't supposed to get. I can talk about, when we found out about the Pulitzer and how happy I was, and then my grandmother calls me, and my grandmother, instead of saying congratulations, my grandmother says, anong mangyayari kung malaman ng tao, which in Tagalog, my language, means what's going to happen when people find out, right? Or I remember one of the big moments was when I was interviewing Mark Zuckerberg. I was profiling him for The New Yorker. And he just asked me a question. In the middle of my interview with him, he asked me a question about, where are you from? Very kind of basic question. And I felt like my life just kind of passed me, and I was like, this is crazy. Where I'm from is, I can't even tell you where I'm from because I'm afraid to tell you that if I told you, then all of this shit would happen, And then I push back against the courage part because I feel like there are 11 million of us, most of whom do not have the privilege that I have to even be interviewed about being an undocumented person, because we just get called illegal. We just get labeled as people who keep taking and taking and taking from this country and not contributing to it and not adding to it. So the long answer to the question is, I am doing what I'm doing because it's necessary for me. And I just hope that whatever it is that I'm doing, it also can be helpful to the larger cause. I ran away for so long that I think I'm only now starting to run towards myself. And it feels really liberating.
You wrote an essay in New York Times Magazine in 2011, and then you were on the cover of Time Magazine in June of 2012. How has your life changed? So we talk about the life events and moments that brought you to this decision to come out of the shadows, and then it happened. How is your life different now?
Legally, I'm all lawyered up. So for somebody who didn't really like talking to lawyers, they're like my best friends now. It's changed because I feel like I'm embracing everything that I am. That's the positive thing. It's gotten more complicated. I'm not allowed to work. I'm not allowed to be employed. I've been working since I was, 17. So this is the first time in my life that I'm actually not employed by anything, because when I decided to do this, I had to leave all of my jobs. You know, at the time I was was editing at the Huffington Post. I was working for Ayanna Huffington, and I was writing for the New Yorker. I was about to do a book on social media, on what I call clickocracy, one nation under Google and Facebook with video and email for all. That was going to be the book. So I kind of put all that on hold to deal with this. And the irony of it is, one of my biggest fears was, frankly, I wasn't sure if my career was going to survive it. You know, I spent a decade of my life really building this career that I've always dreamed I would have. Having the apartment in New York that I've always wanted to have, right? I imagined these things in my head that became realities. And I was afraid that by coming out, I would lose them. I certainly did not anticipate that my career would be better for it. I didn't anticipate that, you know, I would actually be better at what I do. So that's been interesting to me. But now, instead of, because, you know, undocumented people like me are not allowed to be employed legally, but I found out that it doesn't mean that we can't start businesses.
Yes.
Did you know this?
I did. It's a little known fact,
It's
I
a
think,
little
to the
known fact
mainstream
that
world.
we can form this thing called LLCs. I'm like, oh. So now, I just finished a documentary. I have a production company. So now I've employed, I don't know, 15, 20 American citizens. I'm a job creator. What? How did that happen? You know, and then I started thinking, how many people are doing this? So that's one of my next big stories that I'm working on now, is trying to collect as many LLC owning undocumented people who have businesses that employ American citizens, and to try to figure out, and, you know, look, like I'm completely cognizant of the fact that not everybody can come out.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there are legal, you know, I mean, so I came out in June 2011 in the New York Times Magazine. A few months passes by, I get on Colbert or Riley, I do everything I possibly can do media-wise. I don't hear from anybody. The President Obama that year deported 400,000 people, and I wasn't one of them. I was prepared to be deported from day one. So I contacted the editor of Time Magazine 8 months later, and I said, I want to write a story about why I haven't gotten deported. And he was like, oh, okay. And thankfully, I got to tell you, by the way, Time Magazine gave me 5,000 words to write about what it means to be a public undocumented person. And I convinced them to put 35 people on the cover of Time Magazine.
Yes.
I am so indebted to them for allowing that to happen, because they could have easily been like, oh, this is like biased journalism, you know, and like, I was just really happy about that. So back to your question, like I did not anticipate that my career would be better and would be more honest because of this whole decision.
You haven't seen your mother in a very long time.
Yeah, 20 years this past August.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, so when I left, my mother had given birth to my sister. She's my half-sister, but she's my sister. She was 1.5 when I left.
Just a baby.
She was a baby. And my brother, my half-brother, is now 18, so I never actually met him. But, you know, like most immigrant families, I send money every month, like remittances, right? So I provided for my mother and my siblings for a while. My sister actually just graduated from college.
Oh my goodness.
So she has a nursing degree, so I'm really happy about that.
Wow.
She's doing a good job.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But yeah, so I haven't seen them. So in the film, actually, one of the things that I do for the first time that I really didn't want to do, especially on film, was to Skype. So we Skyped for the first time.
Why the reluctance to Skype? Too painful?
Because I didn't want to see them. It was much easier to just send the money every month and pretend that this is the situation and it's messed up, but there's nothing we can do about it, and just why think about it, right? When it would just make you crazy.
Yeah.
But what is that thing? Like, you cannot face what you cannot fear, right? And so you cannot change what you cannot face. And so I sent a film crew to the Philippines to film her and my siblings. So when the footage got back, and, you know, I mean, editing my mom, like, that's kind of, you know, and I had such a memory of when I left. I had this memory. I was 12. She was this young woman, and now there she is, like staring at me on camera. I learned about America, and I learned to speak English the way that I do because of films. I would have never had anticipated that, film would help me kind of grapple with this. So that's really interesting too, because as a writer and now as a filmmaker,
Yes.
two very, very different mediums that look at transparency and look at authenticity in different ways. You put a camera in front of somebody, it becomes a question of empathy, right?
Do you have a sense, because I imagine that you've traveled extensively, and I do want us to get back to this issue of your skill and artistic ability to manage different genres, because I think that that's also as remarkable as your story is. But I'm curious. I think at this point in this work that you're doing, you've probably traveled extensively, met an awful lot of immigrants and immigrant kids and dreamers. And I get this question a lot and don't know how to answer it. Sometimes the question of how many people of the 11 or 12 or 13 million that are undocumented in the U.S. have family members and families that they haven't seen, children that they're separated from, to try to get a sense of the human toll of misery and sadness.
Aren't you surprised the sky hasn't just fallen?
I am, just from the sheer grief of it.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if you have a better sense now, after having come out of the shadows, having started to do the speaking tours and the interviews and such. Do you have a stronger sense of how many people might be impacted by broken lives, broken families in the way?
And again, I'm glad you're saying this, because a broken immigration system means broken families, which means broken lives. That's what it is. This is not about Republican or Democrat. This is not about conservative or liberal, right? I can't give numbers. There are numbers that I can cite, that there are 17 million people like me in what they call, mixed status households, right? 17 million in mixed status households. So I'm Filipino. I come from a large, Filipinos are like the Italians of Asia. We have huge families. And so out of 35 extended family in the United States, I'm the only one of 35 who's undocumented. That's a mixed status family. 4.5 million American citizen kids have at least one parent who's undocumented. And of course, when the parents get deported, and President Obama is right now on track to deport about 2 million immigrants in 5 years, more than any other president in modern history. So when the parents get deported, what do you think happens to the kids? Foster care. So there's 5,000 kids right now who are American citizens whose parents are undocumented who are in foster care. So that's what we're doing to each other, right? And if you tie this back to the narrative of America, 9/11 really changed everything, right? It was called Immigration and Naturalization Service for 80 years? 80 years, and then it became the Department of Homeland Security. And somewhere George Orwell just got up from the grave and just laughed. So we were terrorized. The country was terrorized, and then we started terrorizing each other. And we are a country that has always been, our history has shown us that we're a country that we always want someone to be the other, right? The other in America, the blacks, the gays, and then the illegals. And I cannot, I'm not Latino, so when you see an Asian-looking person with a Hispanic name, they're Filipino.
Yes.
I wish I have a shirt that would just say that.
Or
so I'm not Latino, but traveling in places like Alabama and Arkansas and South Carolina and Georgia, where the anti-Latino, anti-Mexican, astounding. And what's different now is, in the 60s, I was an African American studies major in college, studying the civil rights movement. That was all very overt, right? The racism was so brazen and so water fountain here, there, back of the bus, like that. The racism now, and it is racism, that Latinos in America are going through is a lot of it is just unspoken. And this is some part of it I actually explore in the film. And what I'm trying to figure out is what is the toll of that, right? Is it any surprise that Latino kids and African American kids are now two of the underperforming, students in schools? Are we surprised by this? The most insidious things, to me, the most insidious thing about stereotypes is when people live up to them. And I think we have a situation right now where you have, Latino kids who, that quote unquote illegal, right? Or you're not wanted here, or get rid of that accent. What is that accent? It's internalized. And that's why for our campaign, from the very beginning, it's Define American. We didn't call it Define Immigrant, right? It's Define American.
And I appreciate everything that you've done through that nonprofit. I was spending some time
thank you.
looking
We're
at the
going to be
campaign.
doing more. We just hired a field director last week. I'm really looking, and we hired this guy who's like an ordained minister.
And this is a nonprofit. This is a
Nonprofit
nonprofit that you started.
campaign. And what we're really doing is, I'm not an organizer. I'm trying to stay true to kind of what I do and who I am. I'm not a leader. I'm not an organizer. I'm not an activist. What I do is, as a writer and as a filmmaker, I know how narratives are formed, and I know how important stories are. And so we're going to be developing some programs that, transcend kind of the partisan, political, ideological divide, and really land this issue squarely on American values and kind of who we are as a country and where we're going and what kind of stories we tell ourselves, right? And for us, the big push that we're going to do this year, especially considering where Washington is on immigration reform, is to really push on allies, the good Samaritans kind of amongst us, right? Like the teacher that, that has mentored the undocumented student, the neighbor that makes sure that the undocumented, worker has a ride to work, right? The priests who make sure that, the undocumented people who go to church are taken care of and are looked after. These are the voices that we rarely hear from, and we need them to speak up. We are not going to solve this issue until we have Black America and white America speaking up and standing alongside Latinos and Asians in America.
I think what's remarkable about the way you framed this debate about immigration as the need to define and to redefine our humanity and our collective identity as Americans. I think your push on the narrative, to reframe the narrative, is remarkable, to attempt to push for a cultural shift at that level. Yes. Through media, which is, I think, one of the few formats
when I
where
came
you can
out,
do
I
that.
don't think people understood what I meant. And that's why I think I was so happy about the Time magazine cover, because I could tell people, this is what I mean. So my target is, how do we get on People magazine? Yeah. How do we get a cover of Good Samaritans on the cover of Time magazine, saying we are the ones, when you talk about the broken immigration systems, we are the ones who are filling the gap.
Yes.
We are the ones who are saying there's the law and there's justice, and those are two different things, right? And the big that I'm really, really excited about is, how do we push Hollywood? How do we better integrate storylines of mixed status families and undocumented people and immigrant families? Why can't Sofia Vergara in Modern Family have an undocumented cousin or something? Aren't you just dying for that to happen?
We are, I'm sure.
There was an
it's around the
episode
bend.
last week with, oh God, what's the son's name? I love the son. You know what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
I know who you're talking about.
Manny.
Yes, Manny.
So there was an episode like 2 weeks ago when Manny lost his birth certificate. We couldn't find it. And I'm sitting there on my couch going like, oh gosh, oh my God, is this happening? It didn't happen. But in my ideal world, if we're not dragging Kim Kardashian and Snooki into this conversation, we're not doing our job.
Yes. And so, I think it's admirable that you want to push visibility on allies. But allies have also been in the shadows with us, right? I mean,
Yes.
in a lot of ways, it's preaching to the choir to say to them, stand up, step up, stand up, and be heard. What I see you doing on the campaign with Define America, though, is also pushing at people that we normally would not be engaged in a conversation with.
Yes.
And part of what I think one of the burning questions I have about that work is, my God, man, how do you survive the effort to have that conversation? Because I've seen some of the posts of things that come back in your direction. How do you survive physically, mentally, emotionally, the constant backlash of people that maybe aren't ready for a conversation?
Starbucks. Okay. How do I survive?
Unexpected answer.
No, how do I, you know, the greatest gift that I think journalism has given me is empathy. There isn't anybody that I can't sit down with and not listen to and not judge and not empathize with. Like, I remember once following Sarah Palin around in Ohio during the 2008 general campaign, feeling like I had just gotten transported to a different country. And I'm thinking, no, this is our country, right? And talking to Tea Party people, like we're planning a screening of the film with a Tea Party group, you know. Because to me, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I am genuinely curious about people and why people think what they think, and why do you believe what you believe, and what stories do you tell yourself to delude you or to make you think that, right? I did a week-long lecture series at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that was a real wake-up call to me, right? And after that, actually, this was last year when I was filming the documentary, I decided that my next documentary is now going to be on whiteness. So I'm in pre-production on a documentary on whiteness, on what it means to be white in a country that's getting less and less white. What does whiteness mean in post-Obama era, in the post-Obama era? And talking to working class white people about, because look, if you're like first of all, working class white people, they don't talk about white privilege. They don't think they're privileged. They think some train left the station and the train has like J-Lo and, you know, all these Asian people.
Some really attractive and talented
Barack
people.
Obama and Beyonce and Jay-Z are all on the train, and they're not on it. And they get called racist, right? And they have kind of, in my opinion, so far, and some of the interviews I've done, kind of a defensive, kind of like, you know. So I want to unpack that, because as far as I'm concerned, what's at stake in America isn't really minority rights, as we call it. I think it's actually defining exactly who the majority even is. And given that, quote unquote, white people, and I say quote unquote because I feel like this country invented white like it invented black, and now there's all these Latino and Asian people, everybody's just confused. Trying to kind of isolate and identify what even whiteness is, I think that's going to be part of the story in the next few decades. What is going on in Capitol Hill right now? Right?
Proxy war.
But, and I don't mean to sound, this is gonna sound really crazy, but I almost feel like, given all the change in women's rights, and Latinos and Asians and blacks and, you know, gays and immigrants, and what's almost at stake in America is the soul of heterosexual white men. And that's a big, you know, what I mean by that is, how much change can they handle, right? And really, how can we get our society, which doesn't talk about race, and more than that, doesn't talk about class, that's a big one.
And has trouble talking about sexuality.
And sexuality.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things are like, this is why, you know, my biggest idol growing up was James Baldwin. I mean, sometimes I wonder what would James Baldwin, the writer, would make of this world right now, in which everybody in America feels like they're a minority. They feel like they're a minority. That the America that was promised to them isn't what the America is right now. And that's going to really inform my work, which is why it's funny because people are like, oh, I thought you were supposed to talk about immigration. Well, this is way bigger than immigration, man. Like, this is a question of immigration, citizenship, and identity. Mm-hmm. This is what this is about.
Do you ever, well, some of the topics you just touched on are just kind of hinted at as next projects are very they're painful subjects to explore, and they're potentially
painful.
I think to people that haven't explored some of these concepts publicly and haven't had a venue and a space and a way to talk about these issues.
It's funny you say that
publicly.
because even now I'm thinking about, for the White documentary, I'm thinking about, like, how do I even film that?
Yes.
How do I even, like, I've been studying a lot of Errol Morris's work and all the Frederick Wiseman. I love documentary. It's like the Robert Altman of documentaries. Like, studying, like, how... Because I want the camera there to not judge. I just want the camera to just listen, right? Like, I interviewed this gentleman recently for the pre-production of the film who's been a long-time English teacher at a high school. And he said, white guy, and he said, every time I was up for a promotion, there was always somebody less qualified, who's a woman, who's a person of color, who got the job. And he said that to me. I was just, I had a camera, but the camera wasn't, I didn't capture it how I wanted to capture it. But I wanted to kind of see, like, I want to hear him out, right? Mm-hmm. I want him to say that, and I want to, like, make sure that he's being heard, because that can land in so many different ways, right? Like, the woman person in the club, well, wait up a second, like, you didn't even let us in the club until 50 years ago, and now you're complaining? It's like, and the fact that I've gone through this myself, the whole filming process of the documentary, and I guess in some ways it prepares me for this, because you're right, it is going to be a painful conversation. But unless we have it, we can't really move forward.
Yes.
Look at where we are right now.
And so part of my question was, have you ever been threatened? Have you ever been personally threatened, physically threatened? And I ask that question because those of us that do the advocacy work on the front line, when we push at these issues, racial equity, social justice, white privilege, there's stuff that comes back at us. In places like Alabama and places like Michigan, where there are 27 hate groups, and 23 of them are organized against anti-immigrant hate.
27?
27.
Did we invite them tonight?
I don't know. They might be in the audience.
Them.
They might be there tonight.
Okay.
And so they might be there tonight because they come to our events.
Isn't it just a lot of exhaustion to form a hate group?
Or a militia, yeah.
And
so I wonder, like, is life for you in your advocacy sphere different than it is for someone like me in a local community where you then have to read the mail, the snail mail with the death threat? Have you experienced any of that? Are you concerned about personal safety?
I get a lot of emails and sometimes kind of crazy ones about, like, because I'm so public, like, yes. I'm not afraid to say where I'm going to be or where I am. Like, it's so funny. Like, I was so afraid for so long. And I think I was even so afraid of myself. It's funny because my friend, I've been telling my friends, like, because some of my friends, that most of them didn't even know.
Yeah.
I told maybe 10 people.
That was your inner circle.
Yeah. And one of them said to me, but you got to be so successful. He just didn't understand it. He was like, wait. And I'm like, everything I've done it with, like, my hands tied behind my back, And I'm just, like, getting started. I feel like I'm actually just getting started. And I feel like all those years kind of being afraid of myself and being afraid of the situation, in some ways it's like, you can't break me. You can't, And whatever it is that I went through, and I don't want to do, like, moral relativism here, but, like, I'm not a woman of color. I can only imagine what women of color go through. I can only imagine what a black lesbian woman, there's all these situations where I'm like, whatever it is that I'm going through, someone is going through it too, and people have gone through worse. So I get the death threats, I get some of that stuff, but I don't really, physically, it's been, karate.
You
So-
feel prepared.
I feel prepared, and my eyebrows are really scary. I think they scare people. People tell me this all the time. So I'm not really that scared of it. But again, I'm in this, every day I wake up knowing the fact that I am the most privileged, undocumented person in America. I am. And that comes with a certain kind of strength. That comes with a lot of responsibility and obligation, you know. And there are times that I'm like, I just want my old life back when I could just write about other people and not be interviewed. Because I'm good at the other stuff. Like, this is like, you know. But, you know, this is part of embracing kind of, I guess, what has happened. And in many ways, too, honoring the very people that made me who I am. You know, I firmly believe in the kindness and the generosity of the American people. I know this because I have been the beneficiary of it. And I exist because of it. So, in honor of my principal and my superintendent and the guy that sent me to college for 4 years and the guy at the Washington Post who saved my career, like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
And on that remarkable note of humility and compassion and gratitude, I think we will end this interview today. It's been a remarkable conversation. Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
And for those who don't know in our viewing audience,
Yeah.
tell us the name of your documentary and how we might be able to
Yes,
tune into it.
so
once
it's called
airs.
Documented, documenting
Yes.
the undocumented experience, because, you know, we like to play around with words. Documented, and it's, actually, I can't announce this yet because it's not public, but it's gonna go to a really, really major film festival internationally in the next month or so. We're doing some more festivals. We're gonna be in a major cable channel by middle of next year, then we'll be in theaters in the spring.
Okay.
And hopefully Netflix. I'm not playing around. Like, I'm trying to, like, you know, think about this, especially now in the age of, like, social media and the age of, like, you know, nothing is really mainstream because everything is niche. Like, figuring out, like, how do you really target different communities, you know? And I can't wait to bring the film here in Grand Rapids. We've already started talking about just holding a screening and inviting some of these 27 hate groups. We should totally do that.
We can have chairs
I'll invite
set
them
up
personally.
especially. Yeah.
I'll make them lumpia. It's like a Filipino egg roll. It's really good. It's
we,
for free.
we
and
would
they
be
can-
happy. We would be happy to partner with you on this venture, and I'm sure the community college and the Woodrick Institute would also be
Great.
willing partners in your mild insanity, but very courageous advocacy. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your time
so much.
today.
Thank you for having me.